The 1980s, a time of big hair, loud music, and things we all thought were perfectly normal that would never fly today. From smoky cafés to kids roaming the streets until dark, it was a different world. Freer, rougher, and maybe a little reckless. In this video, we're looking back at 10 everyday things from the 80s that seemed fine then, but would raise eyebrows now. If even one of these sparks a memory, hit subscribe and let's step back in time. In the 80s, lighting up indoors wasn't just allowed, it was expected. Airports, cinemas, offices, trains, even hospital waiting rooms had ashtrays ready. Restaurants had smoking sections, which usually meant one side of the same room, with smoke drifting everywhere. Planes had no smoking signs that switched off mid-flight, and the moment they did, half the cabin reached for their lighter. On trains, the smoking carriage was a haze you could smell 2 platforms away. The smell clung to your hair, clothes, and furniture. But no one thought twice about it. It was just part of life. Today, the idea of someone sparking up in a cafe or next to you on a bus feels unthinkable. But back then, a good chat over a coffee almost wasn't complete without a cigarette slowly burning in the ashtray between you. In the 80s, kids had a kind of freedom that would make modern parents nervous. You'd leave the house in the morning, bike, skateboard, or just your trainers, and not come back until the street lights flickered on. No mobile phones, no constant check-ins, no tracking apps. We'd roam parks, woods, and housing estates, knock on friends' doors without warning, and make up games on the fly. Lunch might be a bag of crisps from the corner shop, eaten on a swing set. Parents didn't panic. They assumed you were fine as long as you came home in one piece. The only real rule was, be back before it gets dark. Today, the thought of letting kids vanish for hours without supervision feels impossible. But in the 80s, it was just childhood, and the streets were our playground. In the 80s, car safety was, let's say, casual. Seatbelts in the back? Optional. Child seats? Rare, unless you counted a booster cushion that slid around every time you turned a corner. Kids would sprawl across the back seat, lie on the parcel shelf, or even ride in the boot on the way to the beach. It wasn't unusual for a toddler to sit on a parent's lap in the front, helping steer. Family road trips meant everyone piling in however they fit, snacks everywhere, the dog perched between the seats. Nobody thought twice about it. The goal was getting there, not following a safety checklist. Today, the idea of driving without buckling up feels reckless. But back then, freedom came with fewer straps, and somehow we thought it was just fine. In the 80s, making a call away from home meant finding a phone box and hoping it actually worked. You'd step inside, the glass often scratched or steamed up, the smell a mix of metal and rain, and drop coins into the slot. Privacy? Forget it. People queued outside, pretending not to listen but catching every word. If it was windy, the whole street heard your conversation through the rattling door. You'd carry a stash of 10-pence coins, speaking quickly to make them last, and panic if you heard the beep-beep warning your time was almost up. Sometimes the phone swallowed your money, and that was it. No call, no refund. Today, we text, video call, and chat anywhere. Back then, a simple "I'll be late" could mean a trek to the nearest red phone box and an audience of strangers. In the 80s, the TV wasn't just a screen, it was a piece of furniture, and changing the channel meant physically getting up and turning a chunky dial or pressing stiff buttons on the set itself. Most homes had just 3 or 4 channels, and they didn't run 24/7. When the night's programming ended, the screen went to static or a test card, and that was your signal to go to bed. Kids often doubled as the remote control sent across the room to switch from BBC One to ITV. Volume adjustments, same deal. Arguments broke out over who had to get up next. With so few options, everyone watched the same shows at the same time. Miss an episode and you'd wait months or years for a repeat. Today, with endless streaming at our fingertips, it's hard to imagine a world where the highlight of your week depended on the TV guide and your willingness to get off the sofa. In the 80s, food labels weren't something most people read, and if they did, they didn't worry. Brightly colored fizzy drinks, sweets that turned your tongue neon, cereals loaded with sugar, all perfectly normal. School tuck shops sold cola, crisps, and chocolate as everyday snacks. Lunchtime could mean a can of orange soda and a pink iced bun, and no one batted an eye. Artificial flavors, E-numbers, they were just part of the fun. Advertising aimed straight at kids, with mascots and jingles that made sugar seem like a food group. Parents didn't hide it, they often joined in. Today, many of those products have been reformulated, banned from schools, or replaced with healthier versions. Back then, a bright blue ice lolly or a fluorescent drink didn't raise questions. It just meant you'd pick the best treat in the shop. In the 80s, music wasn't streamed. It lived on shelves in the form of vinyl records and cassette tapes. Vinyl gave you rich sound but demanded care. Handle the edges, keep them in sleeves, and hope no one scratched them at a party. Cassettes were portable, but they had a mind of their own. The tape could tangle or stretch, turning your favorite song into a warble. If the player chewed it up, you'd spend ages winding it back in, and that's where the pencil came in. We'd sit for hours making mixtapes from the radio, timing the record button perfectly to avoid the DJ's chatter. Albums were events. You saved up, bought one, and played it until you knew every note. Today, with millions of tracks a click away, the idea of patiently rewinding a tape or flipping a record seems absurd. But in the 80s, music wasn't just background. It was something you physically worked for. In the 80s, sticking out your thumb on the side of the road wasn't just for adventurers. It was a normal way to get around. Students, backpackers, even teenagers would hitch rides to the next town, a music festival, or all the way across the country. It was cheap, spontaneous, and often led to unexpected conversations with complete strangers. Drivers would pull over without hesitation, sometimes going out of their way to drop you closer to your destination. There was a sense of trust, maybe naive, maybe just part of the times, that made it seem safe. Parents worried less, and stories of good lifts were shared like travel tips. Today, hitchhiking is rare, and most people see it as risky. But back then, a raised thumb could mean adventure, freedom, and the thrill of not knowing exactly who would stop or where the road might take you. In the 80s, it wasn't unusual to see children in pubs, not just in beer gardens, but inside, sat at a table while the grown-ups chatted over pints. Sundays might mean a family trip to the local with crisps and a glass of lemonade for the kids. The air was thick with cigarette smoke, the carpet had that familiar sticky feel, and the jukebox played in the corner. No one questioned whether it was appropriate. Pubs were community hubs, and families were part of that community. Some pubs even had arcade machines or a small TV to keep kids entertained while adults lingered. You learned pub etiquette young. Don't run around. Mind the bar. Say please and thank you. Today, most pubs have stricter age rules, and the idea of children sitting in a smoky bar feels strange. But back then, it was just another way of spending time together, with a bag of cheese and onion crisps and a straw in your lemonade. In the 80s, playgrounds weren't the brightly colored, rubber-floored spaces we see today. They were made of metal, wood, and concrete, and they were glorious. Slides were tall and scorching hot in the summer sun. Swings had heavy wooden seats that could knock you flat if you weren't paying attention. Roundabouts spun so fast you had to hang on for dear life, and sometimes you didn't. There were no safety mats, no soft edges, and supervision was optional. Parents might be chatting on a bench or nowhere in sight at all. Scraped knees, bruises, and the occasional plaster cast were badges of honor. We didn't call it risk, we called it playing. Today's playgrounds are safer, cleaner, and tamer. But for those who grew up in the 80s, there's a certain nostalgia for the thrill of climbing too high, swinging too fast, and learning your limits the hard way.